Welcome to Bleav in Chargers, a season wrap. Bleav in Chargers. Didn't see it coming with the incredible Lorenzo Neal, one of the most physical, one of the most intimidating players in Chargers history, and certainly physicality and intimidation was present on one side of the ball. Other side of the ball just could not quite get it going. It ends in a wild card loss in dominating fashion, specifically in the second half to the Houston Texans, and the season's over. As we welcome you to Bleav, we give you all a huge thank you. I was on the field, Lo, for more time than I have ever been. There was so much positive energy, so much juice, so much belief around this team that I just wanted to be on the field and soak it all up. And I can't tell you how many people I came across that mentioned the Bleav pod and the Bleav YouTube and how much they love it and how much they look forward to it. And it means the world to us that you support us, that you rate, that you review, that you share, and when you see us, that you say hello, you engage, and that you mention that, because it goes a long way. It lets us know that we're not just barking at each other and into the ether. So it was great to see all those folks. The Powder Blues, Lo, they traveled, man. It was behind the Charger bench. That entire lower section was Charger fans, and that's going to be one of my big takeaways this year is this fan base is growing, this fan base is traveling, and I know the players see it and they feel it.
Oh, no question. You could just feel and understand what the Chargers have done. And you know, look, you just build, and it's been a snowball, and it's been rolling to the top of the hill, and you're right there at the top. And now hopefully when you start to roll down, you're going to just, that snowball is going to roll and get bigger and bigger. And you start to see it galvanize. And it's been tough. You think about, hey, you were in a place in San Diego for so long, and now you're getting those guys. I'm talking to even a lot of Charger fans I stay in touch with it now. They didn't want to switch right away the first 5, 6, 7 years. And now they're coming around. So you're starting to see now, hey, look, I'm back in. It's not the players. It's not anyone's fault. I got to understand that. So I'm buying back into my Chargers team. And it's been a bittersweet year. You know that Harbaugh came in and he put a stamp on it. This team went from winning 5 games and now all of a sudden you see them now 11 wins this year. They, doubled their total and had a chance. This game wasn't out of hand, just some missed opportunities. And when you're playing a team that's struggling, and a team that's not fixed, if you don't jump on them and you don't beat them up and you give them life and allow them to stay around, they'll build. And I think that's what this game was in a nutshell. You allowed the Houston Texans to believe they can beat you, and you let them hang around, and they start to get the confidence.
Yeah, I don't know what people that are listening and watching want more of. I don't know if they want to relive it. I know it's, I normally do not get invested in these things, so they've probably already sort of packed and unpacked and thought about what about this one play and that one play, and I'm not sure if they're just going to start fast forwarding through because they don't want to relive the disappointment, and we can just look forward and be positive. So I don't quite know which way we should go. I think I'll start with this. You mentioned Coach Harbaugh, and to me, the most important thing, having been around this team, this was my 8th year, was I felt it. I could feel, as Coach says, the worm has turned. Could feel the culture change. I could feel this team gain an identity. They didn't lose games like they used to. They didn't lose to teams they weren't supposed to and have that letdown week that might cost them a shot at the playoffs. I felt like they came in, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. And the players believed, and they invested, and they executed. And that's what led them to 11 wins. And even in that 2018 season when they went 12-4 and beat the Ravens in the wild card game, it was just a lot of fluky wins in that season. It was just one of those years where all those one-score games broke their way, and I didn't feel like that. I felt like they won those 11 games. They went out and they won, and they established an identity, and I thought Herbert was playing some of his best football. I know that was not the case. It might have been one of the worst games he's ever played in the wild card game, but to me, that's going to ultimately be my one takeaway is Joe Ortiz certainly has an eye for talent. When you think about being $35 million over the cap and how he had to cut players and restructure contracts and find these one-year guys like J.K. Dobbins and Poona Ford and trade for Elijah Molden and find a gem there. He's going to be a long-term Charger, no doubt in my mind there. To find T.R. Tart, I think he could end up being a long-term Charger. You claim him. After he was released by the Dolphins. Like, you can see it, right? Like, you can see, hey, sure, Joe has got an eye for talent, and he knows what Coach Harbaugh wants, and Harbaugh knows how to get his guys coached up. and ready to play. And that'll be, just to try to set a bit of a positive tone, considering how bummed everybody is about the wild card loss and how we thought this was going to go. That's going to be my bit of positive spin. It's only going to get better.
Oh, I agree with you. This was a positive year. I mean, you got to realize this was a massive turnaround. This was a massive overhaul. What the Chargers were able to do and the way in which they did it in a short time, and they were right there. Hey, look, I think you do have to spin the positive where this team was, and think about you had to strip this team down because of the receiver, the over cap, how many guys you had over the salary cap, how'd you got to get this team, and still put players out there to compete at a high level. I think this team, you get an A for what they've done. I think when you look at the playoff game, I think you be positive, but you look at it with saying, okay, was Houston Texans better than the Chargers? And the answer, honestly, is no. I look at it, and I love sometimes what coaches do. They go with people that's shown them, and they don't want to, hey, look, I can't replace you. When I latter part of my career, maybe I could have played a year longer, maybe a year shorter. I don't know. But you start to lose a step, but still coaches, hey, look, they invested in you. They say they're going to go with you. And I don't know, sometimes is it to the team detriment or to whatever? Because I look at a guy like this. Guy's a hell of a blocker. Great, what he done. You asked him to be a passing tight end, but as a blocker, he's top 5 blocking tight ends in the league. Now, you get him out of sync, and you put the younger guy in there to go out and stretch the field, do certain things. It's a better tight end as far as catching the ball, creating more space, spreading the field. So you have that. So I think you're in a situation where, do we want to be dominant run? How are we going to do these things and still get these guys involved? And I thought that was one of those things to me that turned the tides. Not, and you can't blame it on one play. I get that, but you're up 6-0. It's third down, second down, like 15. You make that catch. You get the first down. You're already in field goal range again.
Yeah.
So now you're up either 9 or maybe even 13-0. It's just a different ball game, and of course, 2 pick sixes don't change it. So I don't think this game. So the optimistic and still positive, but not necessarily negative. This game was not the way that it seemed. It was a blow. It looked ugly because of a couple key things that happened to really turn it. And that's what Houston, their quarterback looked like a deer in the headlights. Wasn't like they had some big plays. That 3rd and forever, he fumbles the ball and throws it freaking 40 yards down the field. They had some great plays, broken plays that just opened the gate for the Texans.
Yeah, so, let's get into it then. I think there's when you said it, I was going to push back a little bit, but then the more I thought about it, when you said, the Chargers were the better team, I'm like, well, it certainly didn't look like that because they were completely and thoroughly dominated. However, when you start going through it, right, the defense dominated the Texans offense basically through almost the whole first half. So the defense came to play, man. They were getting pressure. They were moving CJ off his spot. They stopped the run. Mixon wasn't doing anything. They were able to contain Nico Collins because they didn't have Tank Dell. They didn't have Steph Diggs. So talking about Herbert only having Ladd McConkey as a target he could trust. Well, guess what? CJ had the same thing. He had Nico Collins. Tank Dell's out. Dalton Schultz is okay. He's not great. He's an okay tight end. So that was the same thing he had to operate. Chargers have better tackles in Alt and Slater, much better. Then, look, Laramie Tunsil's good, but the other side was super leaky with a rookie Brian Fisher. Interior of the lines are equal, both equally struggling. And on defense, you're talking about, I think I'd give the tip of the cap to the Texans for sure. It might be the best. It might be the best pair of cornerbacks in the league in Stingley and how well Kamari Lassiter has played in his rookie season, but they were down 2 nickelbacks, 2 nickel corners. Their slot corners were both out, Petre and Ward. And they had to piece that thing together. So you can't blame it on lack of weapons for Herbert, the interior of the line. Now, look, those are all things that we've talked about all year.
Sure.
Tackles, great. And that's what they did. Once Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter weren't able to get around those edges, they just started running stunts and started just gashing up the middle or started running games where Alt's blocking down and now, Anderson's got free run-throughs and stuff like that. So it was the number 1 pressure rate in the league for bookend edge rushers in Anderson and Hunter. That's what they were. They were number 1. And combined, they had 23 sacks. And it was the number one secondary in the league. Lassiter, number one opponent quarterback completion percentage and quarterback rating, and Stingley, number two opponent quarterback completion percentage and quarterback rating. So you're dealing with some good players, and they came to play. And the offense, you talked about Disley, they're up 3-0. They create the turnover on the first offensive play. They got a chance to punch both of those in, right? On the first drive, on a 3rd and inches, instead of sneaking the ball, you're handing it off to JK, who's 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And what do the Texans do? Speed. And they just jump it, man. They're inside of Jamari before he even gets out of his stance, and that thing's blown up. And now you're settling for 3. Very next series, you get the ball deep in Houston territory on the first play fumble, and you got a 2nd and 19. And what do? You got Disley who drops the ball, and now you got to settle for another 3, and it's 6-0 instead of potentially 14-0. And then to me, the backbreaking play was you're up 6-0. The Texans have got nothing. They have got nothing going whatsoever. And Stroud now throws an interception on his own 40. You're already in Dicker field goal range. Just make it a 2-score game, and it will feel like an insurmountable mountain for them, because now they got to figure out how to score a touchdown and a field goal to get back into this against that defense that is humming and playing incredible football. And for whatever reason, you run outside the right hash and you launch the ball outside the left numbers in bracketed coverage to a receiver that you've been using so well all season long and playing to his strengths. And it's a 50-50 ball. It's something he's just not comfortable doing. And it's like, I think if that's Simi Fehoko, he can probably knock that thing down. He can probably switch from offense to defense, go up, high point that with his big body, and make sure Lassiter doesn't intercept it. It's just not what Q does. So I think you've got an interesting play call where you're running the ball pretty well, and it's just all you need is 5 yards to make it 9-0. And to give it right back, Lo, you could just feel it, man. You could feel it in that stadium in that moment. And even though they had to punt, they still did not. That was not the drive in which they had the miraculous 3rd down play with the snap over Stroud's head. They still had to punt. The Chargers had a 3 and out, and they pin him on the 1 yard line.
1 yard line.
You can argue it should have been a safety. They said he was outside the pocket. I thought it was pretty close, but still, that's the call. And then you have a 3rd and 16, and it's just a fluky play. And I'll tell you, CJ played an incredible second half, man. That dude got in rhythm, and he started humming, and he outplayed Herbert in that game. And he had confidence. But you know what it was, Lo? I don't even think it was that.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was that incredible, hey, man, this thing was near disaster on this botched snap. And instead, it becomes a 34-yard completion that they drive for a touchdown on a 99-yard drive. Right? I don't even think it was that. I think it was that first run when he just got out there. He ran on a 3rd down, picked up the first down, and you could just see him bounce up, man. And it's like a wolf, because I was looking at him in the pregame, man, and he was just like, he was so tight. You could see he was tight, and maybe he was just focused, but he just didn't. He looked like he wasn't, he wasn't like relaxed and free flowing. And after that, man, I just watched him pop up, and he was just kind of like high-fiving, and you could see him sort of get his groove on. And I wish Herbert would have done it, man. I wish he would have just taken off once and get that first down with his legs. He never ran once. And I think it would have gone a long way to maybe waking him up and shaking him out of what were drops by Chark, drops by Disley, and just get him back into this. Like, okay, I can put this thing on my back and let's go get it. And it just never happened.
The swag. You're talking about the swag. I watched him too on the sideline. You watched the quarterback. He did, after those couple runs, he was going to his guys, talking to his guys. You saw CJ just liven up. He just early, just quiet and to himself, sitting by himself, contemplating, going through it, fighting the demons. I call it fighting the demons. Okay, yeah. I'm got to go through my place. Man, what's going on? Let me try to figure this out. Fighting that. God, I can't find it. Where's it at? Then after they had a couple of success, you're absolutely right. He's going on the receivers, talking, getting in their face. Okay, we're doing this, smiling, getting, like you're saying, that sweat, that bravado. You saw it, and it started permeating through that Texans team. Then you saw their coach. He was quiet as a church mouse, then start chest bumping, run around. Right. And you see him get infectious like that, you said, oh boy. And you could just tell, when you miss opportunities like that on the road, when you have a chance to be up 21 or 28-0 in the first half, or 21, or it's 17, it's close the doors, because now you have totally kicked some team's butt at home, You took the crowd out of it. You talked about it last week. Take the crowd out, and it's a game. If you do that, you can win this game. They didn't do it. Give Houston some credit. They allowed them to stay in it. They fought, and then it was nothing.
They turned it on.
It was nothing the Chargers can do. It was nothing they could do.
Yeah, I wish they had stuck with the run a little bit more. I thought the run was working. And just, potential plays that weren't made, that could have been made. At the same time, I'm not going to make any excuses for it. The second half was a lopsided affair. It was, you got the pick six, you got the, near pick six from Will Dissly when it bounces off his hands and it's just on a platter. But at the same time, I thought Herbert did a great job of putting it on himself and just saying, I need to be better, because he does. That was a rough game for him. And when you're talking about completing 43% of your passes, throwing 4 interceptions, not taking a single rush, he was constantly under pressure. Ladd McConkey was sensational, absolutely sensational in that game. When he was covered by Stingley, he's dusting Stingley on a couple of those routes for a few of those catches, and that's in the conversation as the best cover corner in the league. And he's still got his wiggle on, and he's still getting open for his guy and picking up third downs, and he's doing whip routes and leaving Stingley in the dust. Like, there were a couple moments where you're like, okay, enough with the whole Ladd's a number 2. You get the right guy, Ladd can be a number 1. He can be what Edelman was to Tom Brady as his number 1 receiver if you get the right complementary pieces. I think that's probably a good place to flip it low and just.
Where do you go from here?
Yeah, and I think, and so you got $77 million. So Joe Ortiz is operating $35 million over the cap last year, and it's his first ever draft. He's just getting to know Coach Harbaugh. He's just getting to know all these scouts, Kevin Kelly and James McPherson, all these guys, right? And figure out what they know and what he does and how they can build this team, right? And it's like, okay, this is your reset year. This is your, let's feel it out. Let's try to get some positive vibes. Let's change the culture. And instead they won 11 games because clearly they were all in sync. With Joe Alt at 5 and Ladd McConkey in the second round versus maybe taking Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze and then trying to find a tackle in the second round. No way. They absolutely played this thing right. McConkey as the 9th pass catcher taken. There's at least 5 teams that wish they had a do-over on that one. And you feel great about those 2 pieces moving forward. You got 2 corners in the 5th round that ended up being starters by the end of the year. And you feel good about their development. We know they have a great coaching staff with Coach Minter and Klink and O'Leary in the secondary and Bowman with the linebackers and Coach Dev and Hardwick with the offensive line. And now they got $77 million to spend. And now you can go out and actually do some serious shopping. Now, a big chunk of that's going to go to Slater. That's the guy who's going to probably get north of $22, $23 million a year, I would guess. He's probably going to be clocking in at. So still fine. Knock that thing down to 50. And now, if Cincinnati's dumb enough to not franchise T. Higgins, I'd throw it all at him, man. Go. You combine a 6'3" physical X like that with Ladd, and you just don't have the resources to slow it down. And then you draft a tight end. It's a tight end draft, whether it's Loveland or Warren. If one of those guys is available at 22, I don't know if they will be. I think they will. Now you can hum, man. And you can go out, maybe sign Ryan Kelly, the center from Indy, and now you're like, okay,
right.
Now give us another draft. Give us a year of legitimate free agency, and let's see what we can make happen here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at just offensive side, I think that's great. I think you got to get it back. I like these backs, but I'm spending either in free agency, I'm finding or in the draft. I need a guy that can tote the mill. I got a guy he's got to be durable. He's got to be fast. He's got to be strong. He's got to be able to run because you're a physical team. That's what Harbaugh wants to do. And no disrespect, but just the injuries, these backs, they did well, but you have to find a guy that you can depend on. I think that's going to be very, very important for this Charger team.
Yeah, and you got good backs in this draft. It's a good running back draft. Obviously, Ashton Genty's going to go in the top 15. A lot of people already have him going to the Cowboys. It just makes too much sense.
I want Arizona State. I want Scatterboo, baby.
Done. Get Scatterboo. You got Hampton from North Carolina. I'm looking at it right now just to remind myself. Dylan Sampson was really good at Tennessee this year. Jordan James at Oregon. You got Caleb Johnson at Iowa. That's that big 230-pound bruising between the tackles back. Look, I'd love to bring JK back. When JK was healthy, man. To me, that's fine. I'm fine with that. And he's great in pass pro. I know he had a couple, rushes that he probably liked back. But you're talking about, like I said, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, 2 of the best in the league. You're not going to face that every week. So I thought JK was great for this team,
and
I wouldn't be surprised if he were back. But yeah, get in there. And Devin Neal, how about that dude from Kansas? He was a blast to watch this year. So yeah, you got backs, and you can get him
Colorado.
in the draft. And exactly, yeah, you remember that one. So that's what's nice about this draft is last year was wide receivers, quarterbacks, offensive linemen. This year, it's not a great quarterback draft. It's an okay wide receiver draft. It's not a great offensive line draft, but edge rushers, corners, tight ends, running back, it lines up when you look at what the Chargers' needs are. It's like, oh yeah, back, like you said, running back, tight end, like athletic pass catching tight end, and Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland, if one of those two guys is available, and like I said, Tyler Warren's going to blow up his pro day, man. That dude's going to end up being
special.
It would be incredible if he were able to get to 22. I'd be really surprised if he were, because he's the Gronk. He's just that massive, giant, just monolith that's running down the middle of the field. And Loveland's more of your Travis Kelce, athletic kind of. You can move them all over, play them outside the numbers, play them in the slot, slot them in, So those two guys are going to go high. We'll see if, and obviously Harbaugh has a pretty good knowledge of both of them, having competed against Penn State and having coached Loveland. So there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anybody further down the line. I feel like, let's see who else. Oh, Gunnar Helm, Fannin from Bowling Green. I know people like. Look, it's a good tight end draft. So, and you got $77 million to work with. And Bet Online, world's most trusted betting platform, number one source for online betting in 2025. Get after it. Seasoned fan, first time bettor, Bet Online's got it all. Whatever you need on game day, they have it. Largest selection of odds, everything from football to the NBA to college basketball, NHL, UFC. It's the number one sports betting source for the new year here. From touchdowns to three-pointers, hat tricks, Bet Online's got you covered on every game, every play, and every win. So get on over there, Bet Online. The game starts here. Joey's got a $36 million cap hit, $11 million in dead cap if you move on from him. That's going to be the interesting one, because you can't carry that. You're going to have to figure out, do you want to restructure and keep him around, or do you want to get young and turn that thing over to Thule? Khalil's talking about retirement. He's a free agent, never been a free agent in his career. So he's talking about, what that looks like. And I know he and Harbaugh had a very special connection, and he and Coach Minter had a very special connection all year. You still got Bud Dupree for one more year.
It's going to be tough because you got one of those guys can't be there. It's just two there,
right.
You had those two guys, you got two leaders, but now like you said, one of them. So whoever you decide, you can't go wrong. But you both of them have amazing leadership skills. So it's going to be tough to say goodbye, to Bosa or Khalil, whichever one. But I try to keep one because I think it's just good for that chemistry of the team. Someone still that's going to be there that, in those times and still go young, continue to do that. And they're good guys to help. They help guys. So they're more than just players. There's coaches as well. So it's just going to be interesting to see what they do. I think Poona Ford, I think with the big fella.
Bring him back.
You got to bring that guy
back. Anterior part.
Yeah. Those interior, you got to make sure you keep that interior is kind of solid. Maybe draft and bring someone better backup if you think you need some more. But you definitely have to continue to build in the trenches for the Chargers, especially defensive as well.
Yeah, look, you when you look at the defense, right? Like you said, you struck gold with Poona. He's a perfect fit for what Minter wants to do on an incredibly affordable contract. Give him a little bit of a bump there. Same thing with Tier. I'd be all about keeping that guy around, man. He is, like I said, I think he might have the best get off of anybody on the team. So I'd love to see him back. Your linebackers are set moving for, it was a bit of a lost season for Junior with the injuries, but you assume he'll be healthy. He was never hurt at Michigan. It was just a fluke year for him. So you put him next to Dayon, and I'm totally comfortable with that moving forward. I love Troy Dye. I thought he played really well this year, way beyond just a special teams ace. So feel pretty good about that. Secondary, what are we talking about? You got, Tarheeb and Cam. I mean, pretty great there as a foundation of young guys moving forward. I think they're absolutely starting corners in this league. And then you can maybe afford to go out and whether you want to bring back Christian Fulton, if you want to bring back Asante Samuel, or is they're both free agents? Is there something else out there? Carlton Davis, Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed. Like, you got a couple guys out there that maybe you can look to see, okay, how do they measure up with what we have? Because now we got some money to spend. And you're set at safety. You got Alohi, Derwin, and Elijah Molden. I would be floored if they didn't bring him back. So I think when you're looking at that, like, okay, feel pretty good. Guys that are back in the system for a second year, they get the system. It's athletic. They're strong. They're smart. They all love each other. They all work together well. So, like, that side of the ball, I feel pretty darn good about, except for perhaps the number one premium position, and that's edge, because of what you just said, the age and the considering retirement of Khalil, $36 million of Joey. And again, another injury, some injury concerns there year in and year out. So we'll see how that works. Thule's he's going to be great moving forward. Love Thule. He ended up getting a lot more reps in that second half than he did in the first half. It seemed like it was a lot of Khalil and Thule out there. Right. And so I don't know if that was more of a let's see how this works kind of deal. But, if you can find one, like we said, it's a deep edge draft. It's a deep tight end draft. It's a deep corner draft. And I think all three of those things, when it comes to pick 22, whichever that best player is that's sitting there, I don't think you can go wrong, because I'm assuming there's going to be a really good player sitting there from one of those three positions.
Oh, no question. I mean, I don't know if he's there, but I don't really watch a lot of college ball, but I'd like the pass rusher from Penn State.
Carter, he won't be there.
That guy
he ain't going to be there. He'll be a top five. He'll be a top five.
He's got some bend money. He's got some bend, and he cuts that corner. He plays low to the ground.
He'll be a legit top five pick, low. Like he's. I thought you were going to say Jack Sawyer, the dude from Ohio State.
Okay,
he's going to be sort of in that back end, top of the second, maybe back end of the first. And you saw that athleticism on that pick, that sealed the game. So on Quinn Ewers, when he got that interception, jumped that route as a 265, 270 pound end. I mean, that's some athleticism right there. So it's another deep, like we said, it's a deep position group. So, they got Thule in the second round. You can find them if you, and I got full faith, like I said, in Kevin Kelly, in James, and obviously Joe Ortiz and Chad Alexander, and what they do in that front office, how well they did identifying talent on waivers from practice squads, free agents that were released by teams, and obviously in the draft all the way through. Did a heck of a job this past year, and can't wait to see him get after it again.
Oh, I'm with you. They did a great job. Yep. Ortiz, front office, they did a kudos to them. I think the biggest thing, like we just alluded to, if you can get Joey the weapons and the protection, like you said, if you get T. Higgins, or you grab a big time receiver, get more athletic at the tight end position, and make sure you get another dominant back, someone that they come in and have a two-headed monster. I think that now you're talking about a scoring machine. That's what they're charging. The defense is solid enough to keep you in games. But if you can get him the weapons and there's run game and solidify that offensive line, like you said, maybe go out and get this center from Indianapolis and say, okay, we're going to make sure we solidify our offensive line. We get us another bell cow in the backfield, help Dobbins, tight end receiver. You can say, if you get that solidified and make it a huge step in that direction, you're competing for a Super Bowl. You're not far away. That's just saying you're right there.
I'll wrap it with this from my side, Lo. DJ did a great job. I thought he crystallized it perfectly. He made 2 points. One, it's like, look, in the playoffs, your warts are exposed. That's just the reality. You're playing really good teams that don't make mistakes, that play good football, that take advantage of teams' weaknesses. And you saw it. You didn't quite have Will Dissly, you talked about it. It's more of a blocking tight end, safety valve here or there. You got him running down the field on a 2nd and 19, trying to make an 18-yard cut. It's just not necessarily what his strength is. He's got other strengths for sure. Caught that tight end screen and was great with that. And then, you're kind of running him on a quick out into the flat, and he's trying to try. It's just not, and that's exposed. The interior of the line was a bit of an issue. That was absolutely exposed. It's what they attacked the whole game. And you had a running game that really kind of struggled a little bit all season long on designed rushes. And they got away, and they would get away from it early. And for a pretty good chunk of the season. And I think all that stuff was exposed. And then the other thing is, all that being said, this is probably the least amount of talent that Justin Herbert is ever going to have to work with under Jim Harbaugh this season, because of having to move on from Keenan and Mike Williams and do veteran minimum contracts for J.K. Dobbins and Bradley Bozeman, and just with the hand they were dealt financially, and wanting to draft that tackle to get those bookends, and only having 7 picks, and trying to work your way around the draft board to get more talent in here up and down. They did that with Ladd and ended up getting Tarheeb out of it as well. So you can see with more assets, there's going to be even greater things to come. And this was the floor. This season was the floor. I have no doubt. You cannot go below where they were this year just because of what the hand they were dealt. And it's only going to raise the level of play on that side of the ball is only going to raise from here.
Right. I agree with you. The only thing concerns, well, I don't know if it's a concern, but even though if they don't win, if they get to 11 wins, like, they should have won more games last year, but the schedule is going to be tougher, right? Because of the fact they had a
second place schedule instead of a fourth. Schedule. So it's interesting, right? It's a wild year next year, the way it lays out. With the exception of the Raiders, every single team they play at home is a playoff team. The Raiders are the only, here we go, let me get it. The Raiders are the only team that they will play at SoFi Stadium that did not make the playoffs this year. Obviously, Kansas City, Denver, right? The other two teams. They get the Texans at home. Oh, I'm sorry. Make that 2. The Colts at home, the Eagles at home, the Commanders at home, and the Steelers at home, the Vikings at home. So at least you get all those at home.
At home, yeah.
On the road, the only 2 playoff teams they play, Denver and Kansas City. So all your road games, Dallas, Jacksonville, Miami, New York Giants, Tennessee Titans. So you've got all non-playoff teams on the road. Yeah, it's a pretty gnarly schedule at home, but at least it's at home.
Right.
And you're going to be able to have SoFi, the comforts of your home. You're not traveling. They are. They lose the day. You don't. So it lines up. It's not, like you said, it's a second place schedule. So they get the Dolphins and they get the Vikings. That's their draw, as opposed to this year when they got the Patriots and they got the who was it? It was the Patriots and the Titans.
They played Titans, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So that's, I think that's what it was, right?
It was.
Yeah, that's what it was. Exactly. So there you go. That's next year. We're excited. I feel so good about this team and the way the arrow was pointed low. I know it's a bummer and the game was a huge bummer, but I feel good moving forward. Feel good about breaking it all down again next week and keeping this thing rolling.
Absolutely, man. You're the best, Money. I had a great time doing this season, and we'll get into, what the Chargers got to look forward to. But, hey, let's go. Bolt up. It's a great season.
There we go. We'll see you all next week.